ते ते भोजनम खादन्ति and aham bhojanam khadami, right? Very nice. Te khadanti, aham khadami. Wonderful. Thank you very much for a beautiful session like always. So Radhe Radhe everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. We will continue on the discussion that we are having. Today we pick up Shloka 4.21 in sequence as we are going, and we will build on the concept that we have been talking about, because Lord Krishna, he goes in an order. So he builds on the concept and then introduces the next aspect of it. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen and we will get underway by invoking the blessings of God and Guru. Again, a very warm welcome to all of you. Good morning, good evening. Let me share my screen. We'll get started with our opening prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. All right. So Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening to all of you. Let's get started. Today we have Shloka 4.21. I'm going to recite it and then you're welcome to follow along. Let me take that here. Nirashiryat chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham. Okay, let's take a few volunteers.
Shyamji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Do we have the recording? Have we already?
I started this.
Okay, great.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Nirashirat chitatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvanapnoti kilbisham. Sorry. Radhe Radhe.
Kilbisham, yeah. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Pragi ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe. Nirashriyat chit atma tyakt sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilvisham.
Very nice. Thank you. Abhiji. Can take a few more hands.
Radhe Radhe, Samji.
Radhe Radhe, Samji.
Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Nirashiryat chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilvisham. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you. Samji, I see a few more hands.
Riya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, ji.
Radhe Radhe. Nirashiryat chittatma tyaktva sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilvisham.
Very nice. Thank you, Riyaji. All right. I see two more hands.
Radhe Radhe, Pallavi ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्.
Very nice. Thank you, Pallavi. Okay, last but not the least, Sandhya.
निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्.
Very nice. So let's get started. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying that free from expectations and sense of ownership, with the mind and intellect fully controlled, they incur no sin, even though performing actions by their body. Now we've spoken about the social duties and spiritual duties. There are duties which are performed by body, and then there are duties that are performed for the sake of body and or the bodily associates, and then there are duties which are more spiritual in nature, which are purely for the soul. Now what Lord is saying, he said that karma yoga is better, right? He has spoken about that. We have spoken about that concept, but that is in 5.2. But in this one, again, he's setting that up. What he's saying is that you need to be free from expectations and the sense of ownership. Okay, and then with the mind and intellect fully controlled, they incur no sin, even though they are performing actions by their body. So those actions from their body, there's absolutely no sin that is incurred. So let's go a little deeper, but let's start with our soul soup segment. So we have the soul soup segment, and then we'll get into shloka 4.21 in detail. And then we have a special treat for you today. We are going to show you something, an encore of Janmashtami. So that's something you can enjoy as well in case you miss out that. So we're going to show that Leela to you towards the final segment that we have. So stay tuned for that. Let's get started with the soul soup segment. So what do we have today? So if you have a gadget, the best gadget in the world, whatever is the latest gadget, and all the cool apps that you always thought about, right? A gadget with all the cool apps in it. Now, but you don't have internet or Wi-Fi. What are you going to do with it? You have the best gadget and you have all the apps you always wanted, but no internet or Wi-Fi. It's of no use, right? So it's something similar to that is we need some kind of a connection. Okay, otherwise it's like no matter what you're having, it becomes pointless. And what is that? Yoga is the inner connect that is needed. And what is this inner connect that we are talking about here? The inner connect is the love. Okay, we'll talk about it today. This is the connect that is needed. And if you remember all the discussion that we have had about Karam Yoga, unless we are doing it for the pleasure of God, it becomes meaningless. Meaningless, I mean, it could still carry the meaning, but you are still doing binding karmas around it, right? Only when you build connect, then those activities that you are doing would carry meaning, because now they are actually helping you in the spiritual journey, taking you to a step closer to God. Otherwise, it's just a drill, right? So that connect aspect, like without Wi-Fi, it becomes useless. That is also a drill. Any other activity that we perform is simply a drill, unless it is accompanied with some kind of a God consciousness around it. So that is a very deep message. It will make more sense as we'll go deeper into the shloka that we're going to discuss today, but we'll get back to that. So with that said, let's move on to our topic of our discussion. That is 4.21. Let's talk about hit and run. We've spoken about it. You hit and run in baseball, tennis, and cricket, right? You hit and then score a run. But if you do hit and run on the road, it is not a good thing. Okay, but then what happens is, let's say this kind of a situation happens. It's called an accident, and you have an accused. You've spoken about this example, guilty or not guilty, right? When it is supposed to be established, guilty or not guilty, you are going to rely on few parties there. What is going to determine whether the offense is culpable or not in this particular case, guilty or not guilty. So in this case, what you need is a judge, of course, who's going to determine, a policeman who's going to be a key stakeholder, a judge, of course, the accused will be there, lawyer will be there, right? And then you have the jury who's going to hear the case and then give some kind of a verdict around it, right? And the witness, of course. So all these entities would try to establish that the person who was driving, whether he should be he committed any act which should be punishable or not, or whether he was simply following the rules, driving as within the speed limits on the right side, and it just happened. So they're going to establish that, and they use all these entities to establish that, right? So this is all question mark, right? The witness can turn hostile, the policeman can be bribed, the judges can be bought these days. A lot of question marks are there if you have to establish that in the world. And even the jury may have a biased opinion based on, not the biased opinion I should say, but may not have all the facts in place, right? So things can go wrong, as we see in the world. There's always a question mark on all of these things. However, when it comes in the case of law of karma, God himself is playing that role, right? So he's the jury, he's the witness, policeman, judge, lawyer, everything. You don't, and when it comes to God, he never errs, right? So he's always aware of our deepest thoughts, our deepest motivations, and there is no what do you call that? We cannot refute that once it is established in the record books of God in form of karma. Then you bear the consequences of it, because God himself is playing that role. He doesn't need people to tell him, because he's seated within and he knows everything, right? So what does he note? Yesterday we spoke about that the world needs our work while God looks at our mind. Okay. Within that mind, what is that thing that would determine whether this person was culpable or not, right? They try to establish the intention behind it. What was the intention? Was the intention to commit a homicide or not? Or whether the person was drunk or was on the wrong side of the law or not? So intention is a very important thing that is established even in this world. And in this case, the intention is the key thing. So the karma has a direct link with intention behind it. That will make the karma, whether it is a karma or it is a vikarma or an akarma, right? We have spoken about this concept. What was the motive or the intention behind that? That is very key to this whole thing. So let's talk about even if you look at the worldly law, the acts of violence that happen accidentally, they are not considered as punishable offenses. If one is driving a car, it may be a case of hit and run, but if he's in the correct lane, correct speed, eyes are fixed ahead, somebody comes in front of the car and dies as a result, the court of law will not consider it as a culpable offense, provided it can be proved that the person had no intention to maim or kill, right? So it is the intention of the mind that is of primary importance and not the action. Okay, so I hope this concept is making sense. It is the intention behind the act, not the act itself. Right? There are times when we put on an act in front of our kids just to drive home a point. So that is, we are not truly angry. But on the other side, we try to act nicely in front of people, while on the inside, we might be having a lot of bitterness and resentment, right? So what is the true which one would God look at? God looks at what is going on inside you, not what is going on outside you. While the world looks at on the outside, the God looks on inside, basically. That is how the principle goes. So in this particular case, the intention is the key, is what we are talking about. Now moving on. Now, the mystics who work in divine consciousness are released from all sins because their mind is free from attachment and proprietorship, as the shloka goes. There are two things which are not there, neither the attachment nor the proprietorship, that I am doing it or it belongs to me or the results are for me. And of course, the attachment aspect is missing as well. Now, every act that is performed with the divine intention of pleasing God. There is no self-motivation behind those acts. And hence it becomes a karma. And this, when it is a karma, the karma is multiplied by 0. It's not at all binding. Right? We have spoken about this concept multiple times. Hope it makes sense. Only when we perform an act with a motive of an attachment or some self-gain or with a sense of doership, then it becomes a binding karma. But when it is not, when it is done for the pleasure of God with no sense of attachment to the results or a sense of proprietorship, then it becomes a karma, which is also called karma yoga. Okay, so this is how it goes. Now, let's look at a case. There is a gentleman, his name is, I hope a lot of people would know him, right? Ramalinga Raju. Now, this guy, if you look at it, he was MBA from Ohio, right? From one of the elite colleges in US. Then he was the owner president program at the Harvard Business School as well. Right? Let's look at some of the feathers in his cap. And then he ended up swindling 10,000 crore rupees, which is about $1.3 billion. That's what he ended up doing. Right? It was a very well orchestrated swindling program that he did within his company, using their system of records to fudge numbers. That's what he ended up doing. And he had villas, properties in 60 countries. How much wealth he amassed? Let's understand that. 60 countries he had his villas and properties. And then 16 luxury cars. And what else? Pair of shoes as well, 300 pairs of shoes. Okay, I think he was a big shoe fan as well. At almost one pair of shoe for one day, right? 365 days in a so 300 pairs of shoes he had. And then he was finally convicted in 2015. It's a sad story. Fall from grace. Where did he err? Where did he go wrong? He had everything going on for him. Where did he go wrong? Anybody wants to take a shot at it? Where did he go wrong, basically? I don't think he was at any dire need of money because of which he ended up doing what he did. Something went wrong. Anybody wants to take a shot at it? Yes, Preeti ji.
Radhe Radhe, Preeti ji.
Radhe Radhe, everyone. So his intention was, he had a malintention of cheating. Instead of earning money by the sweat of his brow like everybody else does, he indulged in swindling.
Right. Somewhere his intentions got corrupted, right? Yeah, that's true. Yes, Sandhya, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I mean, so in some sense, he was attached to the material world, and that led to greed, and greed led to
Yeah.
this sort of a result. So,
Mhm. Yeah,
and I think
basically-
there are comments as well.
Sure, let's read those. And I see David wanted to say something as well.
Partha ji and Aparna ji, both of them mention greed. And Payal ji says he got attached to the success he got with wrong means.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, all of these are right. David, you wanted to add something more?
Yeah, David ji, Radhe Radhe.
This seems to be beyond greed to me and looks more like pride and competition with others in a prideful way. That's just my opinion. Radhe Radhe.
True. Yeah. Could be anything, right? I mean, but there's one key thing that nobody can love. We don't know his motivations around it. Maybe pride, maybe peer pressure, maybe one bad thing led to another. A lot of factors come into play here, right? Of course, he ended up amassing a lot of wealth, which is not a good thing, right? Even when we go to Patanjali Yoga Sutra, it talks about aparigraha, which says that one of the ways to progress spiritually is not to hoard. Right? When we hoard more than what we need, it is not good for us. In fact, Swami Vivekananda had said that anything more than what we truly need is poison. Okay, whether it's food, whether it's clothes, whatever it is. It's a pretty strong statement. Yes, Rahul, you wanted to add something?
Radhe Radhe, Rahul ji.
All the vices of the mind actually took the central stage. probably in the beginning his intention might be correct, but after that, all the vices overtook.
True. Might have started with good intentions, but somewhere along the way that thing got corrupted, right? Yeah, June, real quick, and then we can move forward.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Junji.
Rather, what came to my mind is that he wasn't contented. He was trying to buy happiness. He thought that the material, the more he owned, would bring him happiness, which in fact it did not. It landed him in trouble. So I would like to think that he wasn't contented at heart. He was not happy
Yeah,
with whatever he had.
right.
And so
It's a trap, people fall into, and there's no coming out of it, right? And he possibly fell for that trap as well. But yes, where he got wrong was his intention, right? Where somewhere it became malified, it became impure, and that led him to continue doing what he did. And finally, he got convicted. Not a happy ending at all, right? So the intention aspect is very key. Now, can we keep intentions are pure? How do we, manage to do that? People start with all good intentions, but somewhere along the line, things they get messed up, right? So let's understand it. What our scriptures tell us? What is pure intention? What is pure intention? We'll go through the technical definition of pure intention. Okay. And then I think tomorrow probably we'll talk about how do we purify our intention. But what is pure intention? Let's understand that first. Okay. And we will go with the strict definition from scriptures on that. There are 4 types of people, is what our scriptures tell us. Okay, what are those 4 types of people? Let's look at those. The first one are called tamasic people. They cheat, swindle, rob others to fulfill their needs. Okay, the only motive is self-gratification, nothing else. The world, everything else is just a means to satiate their own ambitions, whatever they have. So if it takes cheating, swindling, robbing others, so be it. Okay, those are called tamasic people, tamasic pravritti, people with tamasic pravritti. The second one are called rajasic. They earn money legally, use it for their pleasure and needs. They do not break the laws, but they are driven with materialistic ambitions and desires. Why? For the gratification of their mind and senses. Fame, prestige, etc. is their goal. They like that, becoming famous, having people praising them and stuff like that. Now, the irony is they look at tamasic people as cheaters. Okay, in their circles, they will talk about people who are tamasic as cheaters, violators of law. But if we go strictly by divine laws, they are themselves transgressing the divine law. Okay, we'll talk about it a little more, but let's understand. These kind of people is where the majority of the world falls in. They say we are honestly earning the money, legally earning it, we are paying our taxes, we don't wish bad for anybody, but they just want to enjoy for themselves, because their primary goal is to satiate their mind and senses, and they keep falling for the trap of fame and prestige throughout their life. Okay, they feel good when they become famous, or the praise comes their way. And then they look at other people as tamasic people, people who are violating the law in technical terms as cheaters, and that they have a feeling that they are better than them, those tamasic people. But from strictly going by divine law, they are also transgressing that. Okay, because when we have come in the world of God, there are something more that is needed there as well. Okay, so that is anyway rajasic people. We can have a little bit of discussion on this topic. Then the third kind of people are called sattvic. They are driven by virtues like compassion and generosity. Now, honest social workers, philanthropists, knowledge seekers, researchers, they belong to this category. Okay. Now, the point here is they are better than Rajasic and Tamasic, but still not perfect. They're still not perfect, okay, because they are still binding and they are doing good deeds, but they are still doing binding deeds. And then comes the Nirguna. gunatit. They are established in their loving relationship with God. The intention behind every act is to please Him. Now, if such an intention is truly pure, now this is a very strict definition if you go by it. Unless you, basically what it says is, unless you are doing a karma or karam yoga, your intention is still not purified. Right? Very strict definition if you go by that. That means majority of the world, unless they have perfected karam yoga, their intention is contaminated. Now, contaminated means it's better, less contaminated, lesser contaminated, least contaminated, but it is still contaminated. Least contaminated is sattvic, slightly lesser than, not lesser than that, is rajasic, and most contaminated is tamasic, but they are still contaminated. The intention is not pure at all there, right? Because only when you do it for the pleasure of God and your goal becomes that intention behind every act is to please Him, then we are talking about intention is truly pure. It's a very, very strict definition on that. It's a journey, of course. Okay, that's what our scriptures say. I'll take a quick pause. Any questions on this? It's a bit of a revolutionary concept, right? But we have spoken about it. Any questions on this?
Hi Ramji. Radhe
Yes,
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Is it possible, Nitinji, for anyone to be Gunatit before getting God realized, or God
So, no,
realization?
this is Gunatit. Gunatit people, it's purely from an intention standpoint. So loving relationship, it's not. Actually, this is a good question you're talking about. It's basically a journey where we are trying to purify our intention in all that we do. And finally, when we will become surrendered, then this will be bestowed upon us as a grace of God, right? Gunatit we cannot become through our self-effort. But this emphasizes the importance of purifying our intention in our day-to-day acts as consistently and as frequently as possible until we reach this stage. So Gunatit people without God's grace is not possible. But think of it, it's basically telling us to practice Karam Yoga in all walks of our life. That the intention behind your act, you start bringing God into that. Okay, I'm doing it for your pleasure. I'm not going to bring in unholy attachment to it. That where I'm going to think about the results and I'm going to get upset if it doesn't happen the way we want, and I'm going to want to enjoy the fruits of my actions as well for my own sake. God is saying, when start doing away with it gradually, so that we start progressing towards the Gunatit people category. Gunatit we cannot become and without God's grace, but that effort or that journey is something we can undertake now only, is essentially the key message as I understand.
Thank you, Nitinji. Yeah, it helped very much, the explanation.
So this basically says, right now it's like we have to really think about what are the activities we engage in. At least it has to be in tamasic is definitely that needs to be shunned. That the fact that we are making reading Bhagavad Gita priority, I would say, I wouldn't imagine anybody would actually subscribe to that. But Rajasic and Sattvic is where we fall, right? So first it has to, we have to move towards the Gunatit aspect of it, is the key message here. Start building in that consciousness and it will be very uplifting and very, very, inspiring. Now, when you talk about pure intention aspect of it, right? So we are not Gunatit right now. That means, can we ever experience whether our intention was pure or not? We can in a lot of walks of life. It's a very interesting thing, how do I know if my intention was pure or not? It's a pretty valid question. There's so many things that we do in life. How do I know whether my intention was pure or not? Now, it is a notification from the soul. We get no notification on our mobile. So your notification of the soul, you need to tap into. What is that notification? Let's understand this. It's a very interesting concept. Intention was pure, yes or no? If it is no, it will be followed with the feeling of, I'm not truly happy after you do that. Trust me, after venting out your anger or after doing something to somebody bad, your notification will tell you something is not good. And if it is pure, then you will say, I am experiencing inner joy. Okay, that is how it goes. It's a system you can actually tap into. That notification, you will get to know that. The feeling that you are going to get after the act that you have done will tell you, whether you have tapped into the bliss of God or not. Your experience will inform you. There's a very simple thumb rule for that. I see a couple of hands. Yes, let's please go ahead.
Oh, I should only, there was another hand, right?
I think Joanji had raised your hand. Please go ahead, Joanji.
Joanji, Radhe Radhe.
Hi, Radhe Radhe. I think you covered what I was going to say. That's why I lower my hand. But
Okay.
what I wanted to add was that you would be at peace. You would be at peace when you're doing something that, would benefit others and you know that is the right thing to do. Um, so the word that peace came to mind to add to what you've
You'll be
already
at
said.
peace. Very true. You'll be at peace. It's like the proof is in the pudding. People ask, what do you get when you do bhakti? Narad Bhakti Darshan, Naradji has said that when you do bhakti, the proof is as evident as the taste of salt in food. When the salt is less or the salt is more, you just know it. Similarly, the proof of bhakti is so evident through your experience that you don't need any other external evidence. It's like if I ask you, if you say I'm hungry and I see how much hungry, can you articulate how hungry are you? Or um, when you have eaten food, I'm satiated. Now that is just your experience is telling you I'm hungry or I'm satiated, right? It's like you taste jalebi and you are dumb. You cannot talk. So how do you explain the taste of a jalebi, right? It's an experience. So similarly, this is an experience, that peace, because now God is going to tell you, yes, what you did was right. And that will tell you, that notification from the soul will tell you that, what, your intention was pure behind that act that you did, and that you don't need any more proof than that at that point. If you have not done it, you will not be able to sleep properly. See, a lot of people, they need sleeping pills and all that stuff. They're anxious and other things, not that they've done anything bad, but when we talk about unholy intention or contaminated intention, the reason for that starts from uh, attachment and those kind of thoughts that we bring to our mind, that I need to have this, I need to have this, and this is how I'm going to get happiness if I don't do that. Attachment to the results, controlling the results, trying to enjoy the results, all those things actually result in having lack of peace in our mind, and stress for that matter, which is the bane of 21st or 20th century, I would say. People, they keep complaining about stress. I'm stressed out, right? Why does it happen? It all goes back to the intention. If your intention is not pure, then these things will creep in. But if you're approaching everything with a very pure intention, you'll always have joy, bliss, and peace in your mind. It's a very simple formula. Let's hear from a few more hands. So there might be scenarios where you're not sure, right, how to approach. See, a lot of times, yeah, go ahead, maybe we can discuss. And how do we purify our intentions now? That is the next question, which we will tackle in more detail tomorrow, because there's certain, what you call that, afflictions of mind that we are all struggling with, right? Greed, attachment, anger, and all those things are there. And then how do we purify that is what we are going to talk about in more detail. But let's have a little bit more discussion on this topic, the intention aspect of it. How do we make our intentions holy and pure? Yeah, go ahead. Few hands.
Yeah, Nitinji, I had a question. So what about the feeling of viraha from God and Deen Bhav? Does one experience, like, peace might be there, but there's also this yearning and like unsettled sort of situation, right?
The
But
Vira
that
Bhav
is the
from
pure
God.
intent. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good thing actually. When you're feeling that thing for God, it is actually not a no, it's a very holy kind of an intention in that sense, right? Anything that is directed towards God becomes holy. See, the things which are not good for us in the material world actually become assets for us if we dovetail it towards God. It's the same concept, right? When you put things to fire, the things, they become pure. Fire does not become impure. When all the rivulets and drainages empty themselves into Ganges, those become Ganges. Ganges does not become the drainage, right? So when we dovetail it towards God, those feelings are actually very uplifting and purifying. So it's like when you're, especially when you, if you have a feeling of viraha towards God, it's a very high feeling, of course. It will fast track your spiritual journey because it will do a lot of cleansing. You're bringing God to your heart, so it will remove all the dirt of so many lifetimes very quickly. So that becomes an asset if we can inculcate those feelings or practice those feelings.
Yeah, but how does that fit into this definition is what I was.
Which definition? If my intention is pure or not?
Their joy or not.
So that is a joy. See, if you ask about like gopis, if I talk about, people will say they are crying. So they're not sad. In fact, that is a very high level of experience. They are weak, and it's very difficult to articulate that. That is like even better than, they say that the bliss of viraha is even higher than the bliss of milan. I don't know why, because for milan it is like the moment, but viraha, they are perpetually united with Krishna. Not even for a moment they are separate from Krishna. That much they miss. So those are actually advanced concepts to understand, but that is not sadness actually. They would, in fact, God actually gives them vira because that is considered a higher level of bliss that you go through as opposed to meeting. Because if you look at what he gave gopis was 100 years of vira, and to his queens he was always there with them. Which one is higher, right? So that is not sadness, or that is not something which is going to give you anything less than divine bliss. So those are, now you are getting into divine realms here. God gives vira to those people who have already become, united with God, or on the cusp of getting united with God, to perfect their devotion, so that they should not have a defect or even a trace of selfishness remaining. To correct that defect, he could do that to test them. But those are advanced things. Here, if you're missing God and you're crying, I think it's a good problem to have. Let me put it that way. It's a good problem to have, yeah. But if you're missing somebody in your family, or if you're missing somebody, in this world, then it's not a good problem to have. Okay, yes, Tarunji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
So my question is, we also feel this joy or inner joy maybe when we do something good for others, philanthropic work, helping the needy. How to understand when we are experiencing the gunatit joy, or and when we are experiencing this sattvic joy?
Yeah, that's interesting. So you only can inquire into yourself to say whether you are having that peace, bliss. Are you losing the focus that you did it for God and God enabled you, or are you self-patting and enjoying it for yourself? I think it's something you can always introspect and know, right? God is saying you have to let go of that as well, because that peace is something higher than the temporary enjoyment that we do through parties or otherwise, right? So that bliss is something that you are able to digest with a perspective that, it's coming from God and he only has enabled me. And that peace you understand. See, when gopis were with Krishna during Maharas, a Jivatma with God, there cannot be any bigger bliss than that. However, even in that time, they were not going, crazy. You see, some people, they get a bit of bhakti and a bit of bliss, and they start making other people dance also. Come and let's do that and all that stuff. And some people say the Mata has come in them. So they're not able to handle that bliss. But look at that state of gopis. In that crescendo of bliss, they were not skipping even a single beat or tal. Everything was done with perfection. So then God gives you the ability to digest it as well, provided you make an attempt to do that. They are in, like, we can't even imagine the level of bliss they are getting, right, with God being with them, and with the purpose where God has come in. on Maharaj to give them that ultimate bliss a soul can have. And still they are able to perform that act to perfection. So they are able to digest that as well. I don't know how that happens. Maybe God enables you, but I think intuitively you would know, am I trying to ride that emotion for myself, or do I have that big picture in mind that, you know what, God has enabled me. I'm destined for bigger things. I cannot fall trap to these lowly distractions, which God might have thrown my way as a carrot.
Maybe another factor could be temporary joy or the
True. That, see, always remind yourself of that rat story that we did, right? Those rice puffs, God will keep spreading those rice puffs outside the big grain store. Only when we keep rejecting them with a firm understanding and conviction that my goal is God only, then God will give us, open up the bigger possibilities for us. But yeah, those kind of things will come to our way. But at least for now, what we are talking about is in the world when we operate. Let's say we are doing a job, or we are dealing with a person, or let's say we have a fight with somebody, right, or an argument with somebody. In those cases, how are we approaching that? Are we approaching that with a sense of compassion to help them overcome their frailties? Or are we approaching it with a sense of bitterness, resentment, or revenge? Right? That intention we can work on. And when we do it with a sense of compassion, then the peace and joy would prevail after that act. But if we do it with a sense of envy, resentment, bitterness, our feeling will not be that of peace, joy. And you know, so the feeling will tell you that, you know what, something did not work out well. So that's what we're talking about here. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's more in the practical sense we're talking about. So I think we mixed it with some advanced concepts here, but what we are talking here is when I'm doing my job, when I do it, do I want to do it to the best of my abilities because it gives me the salary and it helps put food on the table and it enables all the things that I want to do. So I need to do it my best, or always my intention is, okay, how do I latch on to an next promotion and at the expense, whether it's somehow I impress my boss and all that. So when we get hung up in that, we are getting contaminating our intentions around stuff, right? You do it to the best of your ability, leave results to God, and keep doing what you're supposed to do. Those intentions, we have to keep it in check. That's essentially how I'm reading this particular thing from a practical standpoint right now.
We move on, Nitinji.
Sorry?
We move on with rest of the hands.
Yeah, let's quickly take those, and then maybe we can read from chat also if there is any comments there as well.
I mean,
please fill it out on the feedback tracker if you have any more questions around it, right? This Karma Yoga concept is pretty interesting. Now we are going to talk about intentions, and tomorrow we'll talk about how do we purify our intentions. It's very important to know that some of the things are there in our mind, which is almost like works like an auto script. You get angry, we do have envy, we do have bitterness, and all those things can come. We do have selfishness, greed is there. So we'll talk about how can we purify those intentions. Is there a formula to do that, and what are the things we can imbibe in our day-to-day lives to actually start building that framework where we can purify it. Let's see, few hands. I can see maybe some questions are there.
And there is one message in the chat from Prabhat Bhaiya. Khushi ke aansu. Viraha means love, and love to Supreme is the best joy.
True. Love to Supreme is the best joy. So your tears, the quality of your tears will also keep on improving when you have vira, or that feeling of separatedness from God. And those quality of tears, when they become perfect, those tears will become, initially you may get tear. We don't know why those tears are coming, whether they are lukewarm, hot or cold. Okay, temperature also varies. And why are you crying? Okay, that could vary. The reason, motivation for that might also keep, because God knows the day they are perfect, right, for the sake of God, then God will himself descend in front of you and wipe them off. And that is why Maharaj Ji used to say, don't take your tears, as perfect tears until Shyam Sundar himself comes and wipes it off for you. And God will do that. The day they are perfect, completely selfless, devoid of self-interest, and solely for God, then he himself is obliged to descend in front of you at that point. Okay, right now our tears, basically It's good to actually do. People who can cry, actually, it's a good, they say that that is one of the weaknesses of God. But the problem is that we shed tears for God and then we shed tears for the world also. Right? Both ways it happens. Or people who are strong, they will neither shed tear in the world nor with God. So we need to be able to manage both, shed tears for God, but be strong in world. And so this is the dichotomy or the dualities, one of the many dualities we have to deal with in the God, in this world. Yes, Wayne, let's hear from you, and then Jyoti and Pratyusha is there as well. Pratyusha has raised her hand as well. Let's hear from Wayne and then Pratyusha because she's new. So
Radhe Radhe Venji, please go ahead.
Okay, Roddy, intentions are pure. I'm thinking that an intention should be neutral in a sense of duty or responsibility, and that once
yes,
this action is completed, there's no feeling of joy or sadness. It's neutral. There should be no feeling whatsoever. That's how I approach things. Especially, I'm speaking of savings, so maybe this is a different concept. Maybe I'm getting two things mixed up, but
no. So when you put intention for the pleasure of God, right, you want to, then I think then at that point you are actually subscribing to a higher principle, which is called Karam Yoga. If you keep it neutral to the best of you, if you're just limiting at your duty level, then you are also restricting at your body level, right? So you need to bring in God into the mix for it to be called a karma or Karam Yoga. This is how it works. If you're doing it only without minus God, then it becomes sattvic, not more
well,
than that.
no, that's not what I meant. I meant that I don't expect anything from it. I'm not experiencing joy. I'm not unhappy. I just do it.
True. So you are
But
stoic.
it's for God. It's all, everything's for God.
You are stoic. That is fine. But the feeling that your soul, the notification that your soul will give you, you can't belie that, right? It will still give you some kind of a peace or joy around it. That you sail
Not
through
if
your
I
understanding.
don't think about it. I do things like on a regular basis, and I just do it. I don't think about.
Then how would you discriminate between something good that you did or something bad that you did?
Well, I do things that are, that'd be considered good. If you're feeding people or doing things for God, and you clear it with God that this is something good to do, but I'm not experiencing any emotions from doing it one way or the other. I'm doing it for God.
So it's not emotions, it's basically says the feeling that precedes. Some feeling comes after we do some kind of an act, right? Now, if you're stoical about that, completely stoic, that might be one of the things here. In this, what the kind of a litmus test, so to say, for somebody who's saying, okay, I don't know whether what kind of intention I approach that fact with. Here, if somebody is approaching something with a bad intention, their feeling is going to tell them immediately. That is essentially what he said, because our soul, right, God is seated within. He'll give you an indication that what you did was not right. So if you are doing everything as an act of duty and quite neutral to that, I think it's a good spot to be in. Here we are
It's a
talking
duty
about
to God.
people who approach things with malified intentions. And then there'll be a quick check they would get. They don't need any proof from anybody. Their conscience would immediately knock and give them that proof.
Okay, thank you. Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad. Yes, Pratyusha.
Can I just add, like Nehadi had said in context of this conversation, that probably one can have neutral intention for the world, but pure intention for God.
True. So see, end of the day, we have to operate in the world, right? So when we are operating in the world, yes, we need to be indifferent to the results. But you always do things with some kind of a motive, right? Now, let's say you're working, or let's say you're cooking, or let's say you're cleaning. So what is the motivation you are going to bring about that? One could be that, okay, like we spoke about, right? There were 3 people who were helping with building a temple. The first one asked, what are you doing? He said, don't you see I'm carrying bricks? The second one, kid, I'm just, working so that I can support my family. The third said, you know what, I'm building a temple for God, such. So that motivation, what is the motivation you bring to your work is going to determine the kind of karma you end up doing for that, right? So it's a motivation. How do you prepare yourself in your head, and what is the knowledge you have activated at the back of your mind for whatever you do is what we are discussing here. You have to do act, you have to deal with the world, and there is an intention aspect you cannot neglect. Why are you doing what you're doing? So I hope that sheds a bit of light on it.
Yeah, there's another question in the chat which I can read after Pratyusha ji, probably.
Yeah, Pratyusha, go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, everyone. I was thinking about two things. First of all, when we talk about mind, it is coming from like the nature aspect, Maya aspect. So when we have that, then we will think about the intentions and things. And when we go for Gunatita, that's like even if we cry when we remember God, then that is not coming from a mind aspect. It's coming from it's gunadita. Gunas are applied on the Maya level. This is beyond Maya.
True. However,
Purely.
we are very true. However, we still perform an act using our mind and intellect, which is Maya. Both are Maya. Both are Maya, right? So what happens is in this process is, see, when an astronaut goes into space, they're not in space, but they do a simulation here on Earth. They create those anti-gravity kind of an environment where they do the simulation. So, and then finally, so that they can cope up with that environment or they are prepared for that environment. Similarly, in our mind, right now we are running a simulation. Right? When people say you do meditation on God, how can you see God? We have never seen God. How do we meditate? So in this case, we are doing a simulation. Okay, God, you have given me the ability. I'm doing it for your pleasure. I can't see you, but I know I have read in scriptures. My guru has told me that this whole energy that, my mind intellect is enabled by you only. You have given me the talents, whatever talents you have given me. I want to use it to the best of my ability for your service. And I want to make sure my every act is basically, if I can become a profitable servant of yours, my life will be worth it. I mean, those are little advanced concepts, but in your day-to-day life, when we start building that consciousness, that is what Karam Yoga is. That doesn't mean we have to be gunatit to do that. We will be under gunas, but it's a simulation we are running. And when we start running simulation in our mind repeatedly enough, we start building that consciousness beyond a point, God's Shuddha Sattva start mixing in, and then it starts taking our devotion to the next level, right? We even start seeing God, and then God starts inspiring us in a lot of things, and he starts taking control of our mind. So this is how the process unfolds. So yes, we have to use Maya, the faculty of Maya, to run the simulation until we go beyond Maya. So that's our only shot at it. Yeah.
Sir, so then if we are like having the viraha bhav, is it that Shuddha Sattva that we are in?
See, the Vira Bhav, you are actually Shuddha Sattva is God's Yogamaya power, okay? It will intervene beyond a point. Right now, what we are doing is called Sadhan Bhakti. We are using our means to do that. When we perfect our Sadhan Bhakti, then we get into Siddha Bhakti, where God's Yogamaya power starts intervening. Right? So first you do the simulation in your mind, and then Shuddha Sattva will start coming in. So we have to wait for that stage. Maybe in one of the sessions, I can again bring in this concept of the different stages and the milestones that you get into. So what we are doing right now is called preparatory or sadhan bhakti. Then we get into siddha bhakti. And then those, when you get into siddha bhakti, and then after that bhav bhakti, mahabhav, and all that stuff will come. So there are different milestones around it. But we have to start from somewhere, right? Yeah.
Okay. There's a question in the chat from Prabhat Bhaiya. If someone has intention to do seva or good deeds, but because of physical or other inabilities, he or she is not able to convert it into action, in this case, whether God can consider the intention as karma or not.
Yeah, you have a motive to do that. Mansi Bhakti is given a lot of weightage, right? You want to do that, then I think God takes note of that. It's the intention that you bring to the fore, not the actual act that you end up doing. So that of course counts. Mansi Bhakti carries a lot of weightage actually, right? If you are doing, there are so many examples, right, where you can actually do bhakti in your mind as well. Now, if there's an act you cannot do, that is a different thing. God also understands, right? Because of our physical disabilities, if we have limitations, but nothing prevents you from doing bhakti in your head and doing all the things that you want to do through your bhav day, right? You can walk up to God. You can do all the things you want to do for him in your mind. You can even build garlands for him. You can decorate him, everything, and you get the credit for that. It's not that you have to actually do it. It's very powerful, actually, Mansi Bhakti, if you do. So, yeah.
Yeah, actually, this reminded me of Vidurani. Like, I had heard from Swamiji's lecture, I guess, that she used to do that Mansi Bhakti and Krishna made it happen in real.
True.
So
She
that
always
is the power of Mansi Bhakti.
Very true. Mansi Bhakti is very powerful. In fact, it's a great opportunity to engage in that. You don't need to actually go to the temple and do all the things. You can all do it in the mind, and God is giving tick, 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 tick. On the contrary, somebody might be working in the temple and thinking about the world, they will get cross, cross, cross. This is how it works. Tavrit and Suvrit story, right? We have heard about it. I'll bring it to the session basically. Yeah. Mansi Bhakti, it's a great opportunity to do Mansi Bhakti. With God, there are no barriers, no physical barriers at all. It's all in the mind.
Thank you, Jyoti, for waiting. Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, thank you for giving me an opportunity to ask my question. Radhe Radhe Nitinji, I always wanted to ask this question, and since we are discussing about Virah Vedana, I would like to know when a person will be in a Virah Vedana, the person will be sad and will be crying. So my question is, if a person will be sad and crying, so if you consider when you are sad, usually what happens, your body or your mind is not acting properly and you may get into bad health. So if a person is, because God is not going to reveal us too soon, because we are fallen souls. So what you would have to say and how a person should manage when a person is in Vira Vedana, so that the person doesn't get sick or bad.
Okay, that's an interesting question. See, if you're in Virah Vedana, for a material person, you can fall sick. If you're in Virah Vedana, God will not let you die just like that. Okay, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
Person for whom you are doing it will take care of it.
Okay.
When he can prevent Meera, she drank poison, right? And then nothing happened to her. So God is God, okay? This body and all, it's nothing basically. You will fall sick. You're worried about that. I think it's good to fall sick for God. And in fact, if our life years leave, missing God or in Vira Vedna for God, you'll directly go to Golok, right? I mean, there cannot be anything more auspicious than. I'll not worry about it. I think it will be a privilege to die worrying about God, right? See, or thinking about God or missing God. See, when Dashrath, he had taken a boon, Manu Shatrupa had happened. He said he had taken a boon from God that you will come as my son. And he has also taken this boon from God that, I should love you so much that my life here should go if you are away from me. He had asked for that boon, Dashrath himself. He became Dashrath, by the way, later. Manu had asked it. And one of the lines in Ramayana Chapais is, E Raghunandan, Pran Pirite, Tumbin, Jiyat Bahut Din Bite. Basically, he gave his life away. Right? Somebody who can give his life away because God is away, what is the level of that? We can't even do it in the world for anybody. And if you can do it for God, you know what level that is? That will be amazing to do that. So don't worry about it. Falling sick is a very small thing.
Okay.
Okay. See, we don't have the ability to leave our life for anybody in this world. I'm telling you. And you're talking about leaving your life for God. And if you reach that stage, it's like you've reached there's nothing more to be achieved at that point. Right? So God will take care of you. Don't worry about that. And if you leave your heirs, what will you shed? This gross body, which is anyway useless. He'll give you the upgraded body and take you along with him in his own abode, right? If you actually live your life just like that, so much of vira intensity you have developed. It will be a very advanced stage, good spot to be in, a great problem to have, I will say.
Okay.
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 So go
Thank
for
you.
it. Go for
Ra-
it.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. All right.
There's one more comment from Preeti ji. This is regarding the motivation aspect. So there is a motivation when we do an act or a feeling after we accomplish the act. Sometimes we are too preoccupied to even notice that motivation. When we start developing consciousness, we notice what we really think about our actions.
True, it is something we are in an
Consciousness.
autopilot mode, right? And that is why it has to be gradually built over time. No matter what we are doing, we never forget who we are, right? Whether we are a male or a female, whether I'm a mother of two or this, because that the consciousness is so deep rooted in us. It is synonymous with our identity. So similarly, that consciousness of remembering God has to be built over time. It's a journey. And Karam Yoga is a stepping stone for that. I get it, right? We don't remember, right? We are in the thick of things, we forget that and all that stuff, which is perfectly okay. But then somewhere we have to start, right? Because Bhagavad Gita is telling us, if you look at the message from Lord Krishna is Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmaran Yuddhascha. That was the instruction to Arjun. That means Sarveshu Kaleshu. He's not saying Sarveshu Kaleshu minus when you are fighting, okay, and you are really busy. He did not say that. Or Sarveshu Kaleshu minus Sutak, because now you are taking care of some ritual in your family. Sarveshu Kaleshu means all the moment, every moment. It's a pretty high state to get into. But how do we, right? Even a journey for a big journey starts with a small step. That is the aspirational state, but we have to start somewhere. And Karam Yoga is a great way to start building that consciousness. Okay, who am I doing it for? What is my intention behind it? Am I attached to the fruit? Right? Who's the enjoyer? How should I approach this work? What are the things I need to stay away from? Bitterness, envy, and stuff like that. And so these are the principles which will help us get to that stage. Yeah, so right now it is difficult, of course, because we are in a conditioned state, but gradually it will start getting there. Right? Gopis, what the kind of meditation Naradji once said, okay, I want to check what kind of meditations Gopi do. So the Gopi was sitting on a, Yamuna tat and she was doing something. I said, what are you doing? She says, I'm trying to take Krishna out of my head. That is the meditation. Wherever I go, he comes into my head. When I sweep the floor, he comes and dirties it again. So that if I'm churning the butter, he comes here and starts teasing me. So he said, I'm trying to do, take him out of my mind so that I can focus and concentrate on my work. So that is her consciousness. And here we struggle to bring God into our mind, and they're struggling to take him out of the mind. But they are also reached, and they were Jivatmas like you and I. They're not our special souls. They reach that consciousness, and so can we as well. And maybe in this lifetime itself. Okay, one more hand I see. I hope I answered your question. And today we are going to show you a Janmashtami Leela that if you missed out on that, you're going to love it. Okay, that is what we are going to show you in our devotional segment. Just that Leela, and that's pretty much it today. Maybe one hand we can take before we move to our third segment. Yes, Keshavji.
Keshavji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Your topic is very interesting. Gunatit and intention and the result. The question is, people do whatever they do. I mean, they are not Gunatit, but they do things even if they are in Tamogun. And their actions are fulfilled. And they think, oh, my intention is full, so God is happy. God has fulfilled my desire. It doesn't help that way. So, and they feel happy. So what I'm trying to say is, when I am Gunati and doing with good intentions, then what happens? I don't care if I am happy, I feel pleasure or pain. I am moksha. Moh has finished. There is no more moh. If there is no moh, that is what Purushottam Krishna grants us, the moh, moksha, not moh. He finishes the moh. Then moh for pleasure or pain is same. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
very much.
So that is the point. That is the point. Then you are not thinking of pleasure or pain. They are same. So that is your intentions are good. So Radhe Radhe.
True. You're not thinking about pleasure and pain, very true. Here, what we are saying is when we do things with malified intentions, typically intuitively we'll get to know there would be some kind of a signal that we have to. So Lord is saying that he's saying to tolerate both happiness and distress. Like the weathers come and go, you tolerate that. So we're not talking about riding those emotions. Here we are saying when we do something with a bad or impure intention, typically you will get a knock that you didn't do anything well. That's essentially. That doesn't mean if it gives you a good feeling, you start riding it. All it's saying is that there is an inbuilt check God has given us, that ability to know what we are doing is on the right track or not. That's essentially what we are discussing. We're not talking about being blissful here or feeling sad after that. It's just about if I'm approaching something with a bad intention, with an impure intention, my feeling afterwards would tell me that whether I aligned it to God's will or not. Essentially is what we're talking about. But thank you, Shakti. Beautiful points. Are you able to see my screen? Seema, you want to say something as well before we move to
Yeah,
our
the celebrity of our Leela presentation wants
Second,
to.
I'm going to show you how I got the
Go ahead.
flexibility to code, create, and experiment my way.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, but are we hearing Seema first?
Yes, let's hear Seema first.
Okay. Radhe Radhe Nitinji. Actually, I have a question. So okay. Not sure if my question is relevant with today's topic. But
we'll make it relevant.
Sure. I want to know how do we control overthinking? Meaning, let me share an example. So I helped one person who I really trust with money. So I gave this person, money in the time of need. And I knew one thing for sure, that this person would definitely return the money. But whenever I would call this person, he would either, not return my phone calls or avoid my phone calls and stuff. And then it happened for good amount of time, wherein I started building thoughts that, why would this person not return my phone calls, or why he would, avoid my phone calls and stuff like that. And I knew one thing for sure, that he will definitely return the money. And that was the reason, I helped him in the first place. But then it's because of the overthinking, I kind of just spoiled my mindset, and it was not just keeping me in the healthy state of mind. And this is something that I was trying to avoid. I didn't want to think over. I didn't want to think negative. And I also, at the time while I was thinking negative, I knew that this person is definitely going to return the money. So I was thinking positive. At the same time, I was not able to control my thoughts. So how do we avoid overthinking? Because I know this is kind of, making me turn negative. This is kind of, making me mentally ill. But at the same time, I am putting extra efforts to think positive towards this person. And I know that this person is good. I know this person is positive. I want to continue thinking positive about this person still. So it's just my thoughts that is, my negative thoughts kind of superseding my positive thoughts.
Right. So it's your attachment, right? First of all. Of course, you might have given a large sum to that person with the hope that this person is going to give it back. So that attachment aspect is what gives you grief around it, right? Now, if you can do something about it, then sure. And are you in a position where, or that person can simply refuse as well, right? Can you do anything about it? Probably
So
not. Right?
I've got the money back. It's just that, I wanted to avoid thinking negative. It's during that state of mind where I was not getting the money. It's also because the person was avoiding my phone calls. I kept getting negative thoughts.
Yeah, again, that's the mindset thing, right? You think positive about somebody unless they prove you wrong, or you think negative about somebody until they prove otherwise that they're positive. That's a choice you make, right? In some cases, it may so happen that they don't even do it. Then what do you do? And how do you let go of it? Let go of that bitterness. There are a lot of people who get cheated in their business with their business partners. Then what choice do they have? Do they remain bitter for the rest of their lives? Do they develop a negative outlook about everybody around? Or do they move on and give a closure to themselves and that person as well. Maybe, it's a credit debit that we were playing with that person and he has erased that now, right? Anything could be there. It could be part of our product. It could be your bad timing. But the key is not to let that person rent your mind for free and keep on dirting it. Because at the end of the day, your time, your slice of life, and your, like mind is like your drawing room, right? You don't let dirt come in it. So how can we let somebody, some dirty and unwholesome thought come to our mind? Beyond a point, you have to let go of it, and we have to practice that no matter what. So that is very important. And if things become beyond our control, there could be things we are beyond our control and we get cheated in life also, right? Then also we have to learn to forgive and move on. Learn they said forgive the person, but do not forget the lesson.
Right.
But we have to move on. But because if we keep on harboring negative things, we are losing precious time and we are going further away from God because we are dirting our own mind. So with knowledge, we beat that thing and keep our mind sanitized all the time. So forgiveness is a great thing. Don't forget the lesson, but forgiving and letting go is a very important thing. Because you are not forgiving them, you are forgiving yourself. You are doing it for your own sake. Otherwise, there was a story, right? This guy was from Nazi concentration camp, and when they came out of that, Jews, there were two inmates, and one of them said that, have you forgiven those people who did so many atrocities and torture to you? He said, never ever will I forgive them. He said, in that case, you are still in that concentration camp. So we do it for ourselves only. That's very important, because if you go to continue to harbor resentment, you will be the loser. You are forfeiting, because our life is, or our mind is meant for bigger, higher things, not to harbor resentment for one person, for some one act, right? And then if you know that this thing can occupy your mind space, then don't act into those kind of transactions. They say that if you want to, to make an enemy, just lend that person money. A lot of good relationships, they fall apart just because of these things. Just lend them money, and after a while, see how the dynamics start shaping up.
But Nitinji, when they say that you keep thinking positive, you have to practice that. So how do we start practicing this? Because honestly, I want to make sure that I keep positive attitude, positive thought process towards everything.
What if that person had owed you money in the previous life and you did not return it? How will that score get settled?
So I'll take it this way going forward.
I mean, you give yourself enough reasons. How will that score get settled? Maybe you erased some debt. That's about it. If you are in a position where that person just moved away, that's the only way to get a closure, right? How else will you? And secondly, what that person did is that person's karma. What you do with it, the thoughts that you bring in, becomes your karma. So why would you carry that backlog in your head, right? So you have to give yourself reason so that you don't fall for this kind of thing. You don't have to think positive, become neutral. I'm not saying start thinking great about that person, but become neutral, detached, disinterested. So that thing is very important for us to have that mindset. Otherwise, life is too short to, if we end up picking 4 or 5 such people, then we have, the whole life will pass by and that itself will take our mind space. But anyways, we can discuss more on this topic. Let's move on to anything else. Laddu, you wanted to ask, or I wanted to show something. Now, can I move to that?
Yes, Bhaiya. Thank you, Bhaiya.
Okay, so we'll show you a act. If you can stay back instead of devotional segment, today we will pick up this act, and I wanted to show you. It was a fantastic act that was done. So hope you're going to enjoy it and we can relive it as well. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, Nitinji.
Audio?
Can you play?
Audio?
No.
No audio?
I mean, it isn't clear. I don't know if
Audio is not clear, then there's a big problem. I'll share my screen, share sound, desktop, share. Let me know this time if you are able to hear it or not. Are you able to see my screen? Are you able to hear sound?
yeah, we can see your screen, but sound to me at least is
Maybe Sunday. You can play it from
okay. I
your.
think you continue. We'll hear for some time and probably maybe
No,
it's the beginning.
maybe you can play it from your machine.
Okay.
My share might have a problem. So So guys, this is an act, very sophisticated act. If you look at state-of-the-art production, you don't want to miss out on that. So you can stay back and enjoy the act with us. We can relive that. And Kavita, you don't seem very excited looking at this act. Go ahead and play it.
भाद्रपद की अष्टमी को मथुरा के कारागार में आया वो क्षण जब देवकी माँ की गोद से लिया श्री कृष्ण ने जन्म। और इससे पहले कि कंस हर लेता कृष्ण के प्राण, वासुदेव ले चले कृष्ण को नंद के गोकुल में।
लुका छुपी बहुत हुई, सामने आ जाना, कहाँ कहाँ ढूंढा तुझे, थक गई है अब तेरी माँ। आजा सांझ हुई, मुझे तेरी फिक्र धुंधला गई, देख मेरी नजर आ जाना।
उस नदी में मत जाओ कान्हा, विषैला सांप कालिया तुम्हारे प्राण हर लेगा।
हमारा कान्हा कितना बहादुर है, हाँ, और कितना सुंदर भी।
मधुबन में जो कन्हैया किसी गोपी से मिले, कभी मुस्काए कभी छेड़े कभी बात करे, राधा कैसे न जले आग तन मन में लगे, राधा कैसे न जले, राधा कैसे न जले।
वासुदेव कृष्ण नाम है मेरा, जो मुझ पर अपना अधिकार मान लेता है, मैं स्वयं पर उसका अधिकार मान लेता हूं।
परम प्रेम में राधिका, कृष्णा परम उल्लास, मधुर मिलन के क्षण रचे, कण कण में महारास। राधा कृष्णा, राधा कृष्णा। श्याम रंग में रंगी राधिका आज हुई मदवारी, कृष्ण कृष्ण दोहराए हर पल भूल के सुध बुध सारी, महाराज की पावन बेला तीनों लोक से न्यारी, रास रचाए गोलोक में कान्हा कुंज बिहारी।
ज्ञान कृष्ण है, ध्यान कृष्ण है,
फूल है राधा, कृष्ण सुगंध तो फूल है राधा, ध्यान कृष्ण तो तप है राधा, कृष्ण है सुमिरन जप है राधा 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 राधा।
कृष्ण बिना कुछ और नहीं है राधा के जीवन में, बसी हुई है छवि कृष्ण की राधा के नैनन में।
सदा महकती है राधा इन सांसों के मधुबन में, आठों पहर राधा का सुमिरन है मोहन के मन में। राधा कृष्णा राधा कृष्णा।
प्रेम का दूजा नाम बनी राधा, पर भाग्य को भी उससे मुंह मोड़ना पड़ा। कंस से मथुरा को मुक्त करने कृष्ण को अपनी राधा को छोड़ना पड़ा।
अकेले कंस के वध से पाप का विनाश नहीं होना था। धर्म की स्थापना के लिए महाभारत होना था। महाभारत एक ऐसा युद्ध जिसमें धर्म के सामने अधर्म बड़ा हुआ, भाई के सामने भाई शस्त्र लेकर खड़ा हुआ।
आओ कृष्णा, अपनी शक्ति का परीक्षण कर लो। गोविंद गोविंद गोविंद।
यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम्।
पाप यदि ना बढ़ता तो ये युद्ध कदाचित ना होता, धर्मराज भी स्वयं अपने संयम को ना खोता। श्री कृष्ण अर्जुन को भगवत गीता का ज्ञान देते हुए कहते हैं कि एक नारी का वस्त्रहरण अब स्वयं तुम याद करो। संदेह में क्यों हो, आगे बढ़ो पार्थ, अधर्मियों का नाश करो।
प्रारंभ हुआ है युद्ध, आरंभ हुआ है युद्ध। युद्ध के जिसने खड़ा किया मुझे मेरे अपनों के विरुद्ध, मेरे परिवार के विरुद्ध, मेरे रक्त के विरुद्ध। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता में श्री कृष्ण के मुख से उत्तर आया,
वेत्ति हन्तारम् यश्चैनं मन्यते हतम्। उभौ तौ न विजानीतो नायं हन्ति न हन्यते।
तू मौत का गम क्यों करे, प्रारब्ध से तू क्यों करे, क्यों? ये आत्मा मेरी तेरी, ये जन्म और मृत्यु सभी, क्या सूर्य और क्या ये समय समय चक्र से ही सब चली। तेरे वश में बस तेरा काम है, बस कर्म पर अधिकार है, कर्म में ही तेरी शान है, कर्म तेरी पहचान है, बस कर्म। चल छोड़ मन की कमजोरियां, रिश्तों की मजबूरियां, जीवन संघर्ष से बचना ही क्या, जीवन संघर्ष से बचना ही क्या, जीवन संघर्ष से बचना ही क्या। संघर्ष से बचना ही क्या, जीवन संघर्ष से बचना ही क्या, जीवन संघर्ष से बचना ही क्या।
कृष्ण के मुख में सृष्टि समाई, उन्होंने अपने जीवन में और कई सारी भूमिकाएं निभाई। सखा सुदामा के कृष्ण,
पंचाली के भाई,
अर्जुन के साथी भी कृष्ण,
राधा की प्रेम की परछाई।
जो है अलबेला मद नैनो वाला, जिसकी दीवानी ब्रिज की हर बाला, वो किसना है, वो किसना है, वो किसना है, वो किसना है, किसना है। जो है अलबेला मद नैनो वाला, जिसकी दीवानी ब्रिज की हर बाला, वो किसना है, वो किसना है, वो किसना है, किसना।
All right. Good. It was so good to relive this beautiful Leela that we did. So, anybody who wants to say, you can see some familiar faces. Do you know who the Krishna was here? And do you know who created the audio visuals? And do you know who basically masterminded the whole act? We have all those people here in our
And we
session.
spotlight all the relevant.
Spotlight all of them and hear from them once more. But outstanding job. Swamiji was so happy at this that Kavita, you don't look very excited. What happened? Are you not having enough sleep?
It's Monica ji.
Yes,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
feeling well actually, Bhaiya.
Yeah,
And
what?
one more thing I want to say, I'm not feeling well.
Okay, okay. I hope
Nothing at all.
very
Actually, I'm
good.
getting messages that you've done a great job in audio and video, but then I didn't do it alone. Monica ji was there on Zoom call throughout that time when I was editing the song. So
Yeah,
it was her idea completely. I just followed her instructions.
it
So
was
I
a
want to
great
give this credit to
team effort, I must say that. And you guys were outstanding. Krishna, you want to say something?
Yes, Laddu.
And you guys can record points for this, okay? You did an outstanding job and you should record all the points for outstanding job that yes, go ahead, Laddu.
Okay, no way. I just wanted to say that I'm still in that moment and I just cannot come out of it. It was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, very nicely done. I think you were born to play this role. So it happened so
Every year now. Every year. It's the
Every year, but yeah, I'll make sure.
please do.
I have to. That's Swamiji's order, so I'll be there every time, every year.
There are so many comments coming. I forgot to make it chat for everyone, so I'll just quickly read them out. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Was this at RKT Temple? Yes, it was at RKT Temple. Janmashtami celebrations. Every year this will be happening online as well as offline. So you're all welcome to attend it. People
Yes.
are asking for the clip. I'll share it. So professional, outstanding, loved it. Wow, such a great act and great work from all the team. Gratitude for such an act. I'm speechless. Wonderful skit. Loved it. Can't stop flowing tears from eyes. What a flawless performance. It's our karma, Nitinji, for sure. We didn't get a chance witness it live. It's fire, Ji. But Krishna is listening, I know. And mesmerizing treat for the eyes. It was an amazing treat for us. Loved it. Oh my God, there's so many comments. Awesome job. Kudos to the Singh sisters. All grace of God and Guru. Amazing, outstanding act. Loved it. Thank you. Multiply it to infinity because so many are coming. I can't read it all. Okay. Shashi ji has also raised her hand.
Yes, Shashiji.
Yeah, Nitinji, thank you for showing this. I really appreciate that. I couldn't attend that day because I was not feeling well. And then I thought I would watch it on virtually. And virtually, I also missed it for 2 minutes. You know, the end, I just watched it. So I was desperate to see this Leela, and you just showed it. So I stayed awake. I was about to sleep. I said, no, I cannot miss it again. So thanks a lot for showing this.
Thank you. Our pleasure. So today's devotional segment, we thought we'll pack with this Leela only. Shefali wants to say something as well. Go ahead, Shefali. You rarely talk, but when you do, we are all ears. Go
Radhe
ahead.
Radhe Nitinji, Radhe Radhe everyone. Monica Di, Laddu and Kavita, you guys really rocked. I mean, what can I say? मतलब आँख वो होता है ना कि like नजर नहीं हट रही and Laddu, my God, you're such a beautiful Krishna. Seriously, you rocked. Seriously. I
Shiva
was
is
just feeling
definitely
कि yeah,
credit
Laddu,
go
you
to
really rocked. मतलब all the expressions and that everything, you really rocked. Seriously.
Very
And
nice.
we really enjoyed watching this Leela. I can just imagine कि like ऐसे reality में कितना और भी times beautiful लग रहा होगा. Seriously.
And I was looking at expressions of Swamiji and amazing. It
Oh,
was
that's really amazing. Yeah, seriously,
I
you guys
can
really rocked. Yeah.
already see two more roles in this, right? One is for Shyamji when he's here in Dallas. Second is for Payalji, and third is for Guddu. Right. So 3 roles are reserved for you whenever you are here in Dallas this time. So Payalji, it's
Nitinji, I want to say one thing. I'm sorry that I'm cutting you here, but I just couldn't control my emotions. Through this video, of course, my sisters are there, but then through this video, I was actually living that moment, not just at the RKT, but also Krishna's moment while, Vasudev brought him and then, Kanska Vaz, then Mahabharata, everything. I was actually living that moment with everybody. And I must thank you. Most importantly, I must thank you that you brought the whole team together, made sure that everybody contributes there, and then you keep welcoming everybody. Because of these sessions, everybody got connected and they gave their best. So thank you so much for doing this for everybody.
for this credit goes to your sister though, Monica. Okay, not me.
No, but then you brought this whole team together, and that's how they all could put their minds together and do what they did. So thank you so much for doing this.
But yeah, I just want to add one more thing. So I always used to ask you questions about Mahadev. Now I have lot of questions about Krishna, and then I just don't understand him. Bhaiya, he's different. I can't. We really want to. I have to talk to you about him.
We'll talk about it. He's called Trivangi Lal, right? He's not Seedha for sure. He's called Trivangi Lal because he's crooked from 3 angles. Okay, so that's why Krishna is Krishna. So we'll talk more. Whatever
I
question.
remember this, Nitinji. Laddu was saying after Ras Leela wala part, it was immediately that fight with Kansa, and she was saying how Krishna would have felt, like, I mean, Krishna being at that level, could do such a transition, which we can't even understand and imagine. And I could actually feel it while watching the Leela today, that you were going through that sort of a thinking process. It was amazing.
Krishna is playing tricks with your mind, okay? It's a good problem to have.
He is, bhaiya. And then he took Ambar avatar for Draupadi. I can't express myself right now, bhaiya, but we really need to talk.
Sure.
I just don't understand him now. So, bhaiya, and trust me, credit goes to Monica Di and Chiki. I just did the act. That's it.
You all,
Thank you.
I think you all pulled it together. Fantastic teamwork, I would say. A lot of hard work went in, but yeah, special mentions for three of you because you conceived the idea, and I know how much hard you worked on that. But yeah, kudos to the entire team, and a very, very professional and high quality product you created, right? Swamiji himself came and commended you all for that. Means a lot actually, and he was very happy with this kind of in-house production that we were able to pull off. I see a couple of hands. Let's hear from them, and then I know we are getting late as well, so I don't want to hold back late. Yes, Manishi, and then Keshavji.
Wow. Thank you, Nitin ji and Sandhya, for sharing this wonderful Leela. Kudos to you, sisters, Singh sisters. Wonderful job. My God, there's no words to describe it. It is amazing. You guys did an amazing job. All of you. It was just amazing. I think it's going to have so many hits on this that it's going to be amazing. So congratulations, and it's all grace of God and Guru. So you guys did an amazing job. Keep it up. Thank you for sharing this with us. Appreciate it. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Help us making this YouTube video viral. It deserves it.
Right, we can post this video. I've put it in the link so you can watch it as many times. Yes, Keshavji wanted to add something as well.
Radhe Radhe. You all people made me speechless. Whosoever you are. Who am I? 5 तत्वों का बना ये शरीर पाकिस्तान में पैदा हुआ. I was born in India, not Pakistan, because Pakistan was not there. I was born in 1947, but in the month of April, August, before that. Then born and brought up, born in that India, which is now Pakistan, and now raised in India, moved to America in 1989. In California, I wish to be in Texas because my wife's maternal uncle lives there and his whole family. And I visited and met, oh my gosh, this guy Nitin, he's awesome. I can't appreciate him in words. Now, I'm thinking to move to Dallas, sell my home in California, Bay Area, the so-called heaven on earth, whatever. पहले कश्मीर होता था heaven on earth. Now it is Bay Area. People say, not me. Now you are forcing me to sell my home in California, Bay Area, Newark. I met Swamiji here in Milpitas. Anyway, my son is already in Texas. I'm happy. One of my sons is in Texas, but in Houston. So I'll have to buy a home in Dallas. And if you permit me, let me come. Please let me know. God bless you all. Om Radhe Radhe Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you, Keshavji, for your blessings. Please come over. We'll roll a red carpet for you, and we can promise you will not have a dull moment. Once you come here and start coming to our kitty.
Nitin ji, so many messages in the chat. Krishna, please, हमें Dallas बुला लो.
कौन कर रही मेरे को नहीं क्यों नहीं आ रही?
पायल जी ने लिखा है ये मैसेज. कृष्णा प्लीज डैलस बुला लो. मनीषा जी हैज बीन सेइंग दैट. श्याम जी का तो हमें पता है.
पायल जी क्या बोलते हैं, आपका जो कार्मिक बैकलॉग है 9 से 9.9 से 10 होने वाला है, मुझे लग रहा है. अब आप बहुत जल्दी आने वाले हैं यहाँ पे. I was just kidding, by the way. Okay, I don't know how we ended up here, but yes, you're all are welcome to Dallas. However, you can make it. Shyamji, you have to say something. I cannot see you silent for so long.
And
Please
just one more thing, Chicky
wrap
has
it up.
sent a message for Seema, for Laddu, कि दी को हाथ पकड़ के शिव लोग छोड़ के आएंगे. I am very possessive about Krishna.
Sure, we'll talk more about Krishna. I think something is happening with Seema. So, okay, Shyamji, please do say something. Something you have to
राधे
say.
राधे। मैं इतना कहना चाहूंगा कि कृष्णा ने मेरे थ्रू चिंगारी लगा दी है, अब आग जल रही है, अब आप संभालिए। मैंने स्टार्ट किया था as Krishna's grace and it's going on now, so you have to make it happen somehow। कैसे करेंगे, क्यों करेंगे, कौन करेगा, आप देख लीजिए। और इतने पैसे बस नहीं है कि मैं घर ले सकूं लाइक केशव जी, बट आई नीड वन स्मॉल रूम टू स्टे। सो आप देखिए कब,
हो
कहाँ,
जाएगा।
क्यों करना है, आपने करना है।
आप
आग
नैना
बढ़ती
जी
जा
से
रही है, इससे
नेगोशिएट
पहले
कर
कि आग
लीजिए।
फैल जाए
आप
इससे
नैना
पहले
जी
आग
से
फैल
नेगोशिएट
जाए,
कर
आप
लीजिए,
संभाल
बाकी
लीजिए।
सब हो जाएगा।
आप संभालिए लोगों को। एंड आई डाउट ये मोनिका जी 3 बहनें ही है कि और भी है इसके अलावा, बिकॉज आई डाउट ये 3 लोगों का कमाल है। बिकॉज 4 तो हो गई, कविता कह रही है। अब आई डो नॉट नो ये कितने छिपे लोग हैं। जैसे मोनिका जी बैठी हुई है ना, बिकॉज शान से, जैसे अभी ये कुछ बोलेंगे और सब बवाल मच जाएगा। तो खैर ठीक है, दैट्स द वे वी ऑल आर। एंड हम जैसे हमारा ग्रुप है, वी ऑल आर सोल सिस्टर ब्रदर्स। ये 3-4 लोग हैं जो एक ही माँ बाप से हैं, बट आई एम श्योर वी ऑल आर कनेक्टेड सोल विद ईच अदर। एंड वंस वी ऑल आर देयर, मैं, केशव जी, पायल, मनीषा, सो वी विल ऑल हैव रॉक टुगेदर एंड वी विल मेक this Diwali affair, Janmashtami affair, a gala event for the world to watch it।
वाह,
मैं तो बोलते रहूंगा नेताओं के जैसे बट राधे राधे, थैंक यू सो मच, because when I speak I don't stop।
Ajit Kumar ji says Dallas is going to be converted to Dwarka.
So true। it D for Dallas, D for Delhi, D for Dwarkadhish। so वो दिन दूर नहीं है जब we'll all be there and we'll be there together। thank you so much। राधे राधे।
Radhe
Radhe
Radhe.
Radhe, very nice. I think we are going to have a lot of people flocking to Dallas now. So
Okay,
we
Meenu
would
ji.
love to welcome all of you. Let's hear from Meenu ji and Monica ji. 2 M's are going to speak now.
Meenu
Or
ji.
Meenu ji, are you going to speak, or Mr. Meenu ji?
Yeah,
Mr. Meenu ji.
I'll speak. Radhe Radhe, I'm so feeling so blessed and so happy to see you, Nitin, and all the how your hard work and dedication and your Zoom program, the way you have been running, and by the grace of Jagat Guru Kripalu Mahaprabhu ji and Swami ji, how the temple is blooming, and how the Singh sisters, how they have come and they have shown their dedication and commitment. I've been watching this show, like this program. I try to watch this program every day, and I'm going to share their video throughout all my pages and groups. Can you send me their video so that I can share it all over the media? Thank you.
Sure, sure, Meenu ji. We always need your blessings, and thank you so much. I see you there, and Vinod ji is also very, very excited to see the video. Vinod ji, you wanted to say something as well?
Yeah, I have only one word to say. It's just awesome. And JKO Gollywood.
Dollywood. Now Dallas is called Dollywood. JKO Dollywood. Very nice.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Summed it up, yes. Thank you so much, Vinod ji. Vinod ji, we always need your best wishes and blessings. So thank you for that. Yes, Monica, please go ahead.
Director's time now. Turn.
Director's time now. Please go ahead, director ji.
राधे राधे। थैंक यू एवरीबॉडी फॉर काइंड वर्ड्स, बट हम जैसे तुच्छ प्राणी कुछ नहीं कर सकते विदाउट ग्रेस। ये सब कृष्णा करवा रहे हैं हमारे थ्रू। इट्स जस्ट दैट हम लोग बहुत ज्यादा उड़ते रहते हैं, तो वो एनर्जी वहां पे डाइवर्ट कर दी है थ्रू स्वामी जी, एंड स्वामी जी के थ्रू, नितिन जी के थ्रू करवा दी है। दैट्स इट। ये क्रिएटिविटी एवरीथिंग इज जस्ट कम्स, बाकी कामों में नहीं आती, इधर ही आती। सो थैंक यू एवरीबॉडी। बट ये हमसे कराया गया है और आई एम श्योर ये हम सबसे कराया जाएगा। विल कनेक्ट, एंड मैं तो सोच रही हूँ कि ऑल ऑफ अस someday maybe here in Bharat or wherever we meet, we'll continue doing these leelas. And because Swamiji also mentioned that he's the, the happiest person because he always wanted something like this. So, or without team effort to hota nahi hai, because we just practice for like 6 to 7 times only. Otherwise, pulling such a big act, I have, like I mentioned yesterday, that I actually experienced miracles. I saw miracles, and मुझे clearly पता चलता है कि ये नहीं हो पाता, ये किसी एक इंसान का काम है ही नहीं, ये हुआ है, ये literally हुआ है. मैं explain नहीं कर सकती, but I really want you all also to feel this. So maybe, I mean, I'm sure I can see this, that we are going to connect, maybe online also, and maybe in Dallas or in Bharat, and we'll do leelas. And जैसे आपने बोला कि Dallas द्वारका बनेगा, और definitely बनेगा.
Let's float our Natak Mandali, right? So that will be
Yes.
Natak Mandali.
Natak Mandali, yes.
Yeah, we can
Nukkad
do
Natak.
a lot of Nukkad Nataks and other things too, right? Very nice. But yeah, this is one of the things, right? When you get into seva and you put in your best, you realize there are so many things, so many failure points you may have, and still things just fall in place. And you don't know how it just came together so beautifully, right? Much more than you would have expected. And that is the beauty of seva. And by the way, tomorrow we'll have another person who's going to talk about her seva experience. So look out for that inspirational spiel from one of our younger devotees. May I mention her name as well? I think it's going to be Urdu. Look out for that, okay? Tomorrow's segment, little segment on that as well. But thank you so much for putting up this beautiful act and bringing a big smile on Swamiji's face for all the hard work that he does. That was some act for sure. And Chiki, you're outstanding. All of you are. Okay. Wonderful. Tadu, let's talk more about Krishna. Okay. Now Krishna has started messing with your head, which can happen, I can imagine. Great. So with that, I know we had a pretty long session today. Let's wrap up today's session. And thank you again for your enthusiastic participation. We had a different devotional segment, but hope it was well worth it today. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We'll continue on this journey. We'll talk about how to purify our intention, and look out for an inspiration session from Urvi tomorrow. She is so excited and she's been up to a lot of good stuff of late. So I would let her talk about it as well tomorrow. So thank you again. Good night. Good day from my side.
Thank you, everyone. Radhe Radhe. See you all tomorrow.
Radhe Radhe. See you all tomorrow. Bye.